eyes have been naturally turning to Gaga Slonina, maybe our best young talented goalkeeper in our pipeline in this country, 17-year-old Chicago Fire.
There's no question.
Already playing super well for Chicago this particular season. And the Polish national team coach, because he can play for Poland as well, everybody, flew over to Chicago.
Well, first to New England, Jimmy.
To New England?
He was at the game for New England Revolution versus Charlotte, and he was watching Adam Buksa versus Federski. So his two, backup strikers to Lewandowski were playing against each other. And so I watched him, just watching the game. He was hanging out with the Revolution coaching staff, and now he's obviously going to check out Gaga Slonina. So this is a big one.
That's a problem. This is a problem. So Heath, I'm going to come to you on this because you've been on the Slonina hype train from the very beginning, and rightfully so. He's a tremendous talent. If you're Greg Berhalter, I say, dude, you're going to start the First Nations League game against El Salvador. We're going to cap tie your ass. Okay, that's one. Second, you're number 3 goalkeeper for the World Cup in 2022. I mean, you're going to the World Cup. Don't worry, you're going to go with us. That's one. Sean Johnson, unlucky, buddy. Like, we got the pressures crushed us now. We got to take Gaga with us. And also, you're going to be legitimately competing to be the number 1 for the 2026 World Cup. And how cool would that be to be the number 1 in the World Cup that we're hosting? Could you make those types of promises to a 17-year-old at this point? I mean, we have plenty of kids that can play, but obviously he's the one that's emerged as an incredible talent.
Yeah, I think you can make that promise, and maybe it's circumstantial based on your health and playing and all those kinds of things. But I would still bring him in and get him his games, like cap time for sure. You obviously want him to buy in, and not just cap tie for the sake of cap time. You want him to be fully in on the process. But of all the goalkeepers that I think could benefit out of games this summer for the national team, me as a fan, I'd still rather see Slonina over the other two that I kind of know what I'm going to get. They're
talking Sean Johnson, Horvath.
Well, yeah, Sean Johnson. I don't see the value of that, and even if he is your number 3, I still don't see the value of that versus Slonina. Yeah, Ethan Horvath, same thing. I still think Slonina should have a shout. Now, there's still things about his game that are very indicative of a teenage kid who's getting matches. But if he is your future, you start working him in now. It's a little bit of a scary situation, because I think Poland could probably promise him a lot more than the U.S. at the moment.
No doubt.
Okay, so Charlie, where are you on the? I mean, if you're the Polish national team coach, you're telling him, okay, we're going to take you to the World Cup. You're not going to start, but you'll be there with us. We can promise the same thing, and then after that, they do have some big Nations League games coming up, so that would be if they gave him a game there to cap time. That he could get a game against the Netherlands, amongst others that they're going to be playing here over the next couple months. What are you saying that he's played with our youth national teams at the U15, U16, U17, U19, and U20. He's played at all of our youth national teams. He has to obviously have some tie to not only the U.S. program, but also some of the players that he's developed with. So what can you say if you're Poland, and do you think he'll go? Because right now it feels like it's just up to the player.
Well, I had the opportunity to speak to him last month.
Well, you've been holding out on us. You could have started there, Charlie.
Yeah, no, I was waiting. I will say he is such a mature 17-year-old. I mean, he's wise beyond his years. He's focused. His preparation is, I think, second to none for a 17-year-old. He has his eyes on the future, and as well as the present. He's very focused, and he takes the game-to-game approach. What I will say is, just like Julian Green with Klinsmann, I think, all these national teams were kind of out for Julian Green, whether it's Germany, and the promise of a World Cup spot, I think is pretty strong. And I think that's what kind of moved him to go with the U.S. He saw a future. He saw myself, being there for a long time. Look at what we've done for Yunus Musa. He had a number of opportunities. He could have waited, but he went with a guarantee, which was the U.S. men's national team now, not waiting for England and the chance to join England. It's now guaranteed opportunity and a future. Serginho Dest, guaranteed now and a future. And it's an exciting project. It's a number of young players looking to take U.S. soccer to a whole nother level together, right? And a World Cup coming in 2026. There's no better, I think, project to be a part of than the U.S. men's national team, considering all the potential. But for Gaga Slonina, you also have to look at my position. Zach Steffen is 27. Matt Turner and Ethan Horvath, 26. They're in front of me. That's young for a goalkeeper. One's at City, one's at Arsenal, one's at Nottingham Forest, and probably going to move from Nottingham Forest this summer.
Okay.
It's a mountain to climb. It's a mountain to climb.
Well, I look at Poland's national team. They got Wojciech Szczesny, 32, plays at Juventus. So it's probably his last 32, World Cup.
Yeah.
You got Skorupski, who has got 6 caps. He plays for Bologna.
I don't see why that would be his last World Cup, though, at 32.
Szczesny?
You know,
okay, he'll be 36 and 26 then.
But that's not even a guarantee if they get to a World Cup.
Who I really like, though, is they got Drokowski, who's got 1 cap. He plays for Fiorentina. He's a good goalkeeper. He's only 24.
I would take Slonina over him.
Yeah, I would too. They got Majecki as well.
Chelsea was after him. I mean, it's not
I get it.
Great kid. He was going to be at a bigger club than all of them.
Chelsea was after Matt Miazga as well. How did that go? I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I get it. Slonina for me is a much better prospect than Miazga. I feel like that. But they got Majecki as well. I'm just looking at Polish national team goalkeepers. He's 22. He plays for Monaco. So it's not like they're lacking options, the Polish national team, for young goalkeepers. Obviously, if you have a chance at taking a stab at a terrific young talent, why wouldn't you bring him in and try to get him into the system as soon as possible? But this would be, for me, this would be a really big miss. And I think a mark on Greg Berhalter, who's done an excellent job, I think, of recruiting players up until this point.
But
if we lost Slonina.
Uniquely, though, countries have super talents at that age, and we tend to, and we always have, overhype a young super talent because he's playing. He's got some stats that go in his favor. But most other countries would have him in a U20 system, and then they'd have him in. They'd be playing in. If you were, say, Poland, you'd play in the Euros. You'd have sort of that breakout. You'd sort of be on the. There it just always feels like there's a little bit more guardrails in sort of developing that talent. Whereas, like, I actually see, now that you guys both presented really good arguments for and against Slonina to the U.S. or Poland, is that he actually seemingly has a good opportunity to be the one for the U.S. for 2026. Obviously, that's a lifetime away. But when you're talking about guys going, okay, we're going to have somebody at Arsenal, we're going to have somebody at City, they'll probably not be there in 2026 unless they're the one. And so if they're a player at 17, if you're at now, 21, 22, come the World Cup, you've got 5 years of experience, he might very well be on a different path. And again, not to overhype him, but he could be on more of a Donnarumma path, or the young Valdez, or what's his name that was at Real Madrid. Like, he's on a pathway now, starting at goalkeeper, 17 years old, and getting results. That his pathway could be to being at a big club as a number 1 in his early 20s come 2026.
I would say as long as he makes the right decision in terms of the next step. And you said it perfectly, Heath. There's under 20s, there's Olympic team, then there's a full team. We're not in the US. Typically, you're not jumping from star under 17 unless you're Beasley and Donovan in 2002. But typically, you gotta take the next step, which is under 20. Prove yourself there. Then under 23. Sometimes there's late bloomers. They come out of nowhere, and then it's the full team. There's proper steps, just like there is in the professional game. For career development, you need playing time. For a young keeper like Gaga Slonina, who's 17 and he's getting all these clean sheets, but he's playing, you can't go from that mode to all of a sudden going to Chelsea and not touching the field for 5-6 years, and then your contract runs out, and maybe they extend you because they loved you as a backup, and then you're there for another six years. You got to go to the next club in Europe where you're going to play, and a lot of times you're not going to the Premier League to play first. Maybe you start in the Eredivisie in Holland, and you're playing for a PSV, a Feyenoord, an Ajax, a top club there, of course. Or you're going to Denmark, you're playing for a Copenhagen, you're playing for the teams that are competing for the league trophy, which then brings you to Champions League or Europa League. Bundesliga, going to a mid-tier team. You're going to the next step. You're not jumping 10 steps and going to a top Champions League club and expecting to play at a young age. So I think Gaga Slonina could definitely be the man. And he's confident. He's the type of player that say, yeah, Matt Turner might be there, Zach Steffen might be there, Horvath might be there, but I know I'm better than him when I reach my potential. So I'm going to believe in myself, and I'll stick with the U.S. men's national team. Greg Berhalter has been the one who's saying, hey, I'm not just going to give you a national team spot because people are chatting or because there's a hype around you. You have to earn it. And I think in his mind, he's like, you're not ready yet. So I'm not just going to hand you a cap just to cap tie you. I don't want to do that to you. So there's two sides of the coin. It's, yeah, you could rush them in and do it. Or you could say, you know what? When you're ready, I'm going to call you in. And that's how I've always operated. And I'm not going to change it for anybody.